Hello, everyone. Welcome to December 5th. I believe it's December 5th. I could be wrong. Nope, December 5th. Very cool. On the December Dash. And here we are on a weekend. um, I was going to talk a little bit about, uh, not much, but a little bit about the sacrifice that we always talk about. And I think a lot of people kind of overestimate what I mean when I say this business is gonna you're gonna have to sacrifice a little bit for it. And it might sound like, oh man, he's really leading off with like a negative point today. Actually, no, I'm not. This is when I talk about sacrifice, I don't mean you have to give up anything and everything. You have to be willing to do what everyone else won't. That's for a fact. Um, but it's always temporary. It's never a permanent state of being. Okay, it's not meant to be either. And the savvy business owner, the savvy entrepreneur understands this, that it's a matter of time. The difference between every other entrepreneur and you listening in right now, as you pile into the room, welcome, welcome. You you're going to understand that there's a lot that's already not just been done for you, but that has been laid out for you to do. Um, Whereas most entrepreneurs in most industries or discovering new industries um, end up, think of it like this, end up being the first through the wall. And the first through the wall is never the prettiest. They're the first through the wall, but they're not the prettiest. And not that they need to be the prettiest, but the idea is it took a lot of effort for them to get to through the wall to be first through the wall. In this case, you may not be first to the wall, but the path through the wall has already been made. You're not going to injure yourself. It's going to be relatively easy compared to price barriers and think of this as barrier to entry, not just on finances, but on resources, whether you can bootstrap a business or not from hardly nothing. Um, there's a lot of factors and barriers to entry that most other entrepreneurs experience that you're not going to have to figure out how to acquire clients. Nope, that's already been done for you. How do you scale it? Nope, that's already been done for you. How do you deliver? It's already been done for you or figured out for you is my point. And sometimes we can take that for granted, right? Or be prone to take that for granted. And there's much more to the business than that, but those are the basics. And um, literally anyone can come into this model and do very, very well because of those points. And I'm very happy to be able to serve you guys and gals in that capacity, um, even on a weekend. And so that kind of comes back full circle to my point of um, the sacrifices that we make. I mean, um, you might say, well, uh, you're single and you don't have children, you know. Um, and for the record, I was married at one point, and no, I do not have children. But that doesn't mean that I'm not sacrificing. It very much means that it's taking time away from other things that I want to do, things that I need to do, and both, in some cases, both. Um, there's sometimes I sacrifice because I'm not feeling my best, and I know that, and I've got to be there anyway. Today's not necessarily one of those days. My point is, uh, sacrifices are made, and the bigger you get in your business, the more you're going to understand this as a business owner, as an agency owner, the more that people depend on you for all kinds of things, and you can become independent again or more independent again as you build out the systems and processes for your business. But ultimately, people are still depending on you. It's just the systems and processes are running the rest of the business. So, anyway, hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to spend a couple minutes on that and say hello to everyone. See, here's the crazy thing. We have like what is today? Today's Saturday the 5th. We covered that already, but here's my point. Saturday the 5th, 11:05, and we have half our usual audience. See what I'm saying? Um, what's it going to be like come Christmas Eve if you follow my drift? Um, and that's what I mean when I say when I set up uh, when I set up the Show Up Grow Up Award, for example, and all the other awards as well, but definitely that one, I had you guys in mind because I know that if you show up, you're going to be able to make the commitment, get the work done, and move forward, right? But and I understand the count's going up as we go, but the idea is usually almost out of the gate, it's double what it is now. It's funny because people are piling in late, or they're the commitment's just not there, right? So if that's you, uh, I'm not judging you. I just want you to know, like, I see you, I hear you, and you've got to be aware of that, and or choose to be aware of that and do something about it. It's not in my power to do anything about it. I'm here, 11 o'clock. I'm here. I mean, we do what we have to do. And for those of you who wonder, would I be the guy who, if there were calls scheduled at 2 or 3 a.m. my time, uh, would I be on those calls? Anytime I've ever traveled, I have been on calls at 2 or 3 a.m. I've been halfway around the world, and because I set the time at 11 or 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that was the time I was on the call. And so for me, in a lot of cases, that was 2 or 3 a.m., halfway across the world. And I do that because I'm not going to ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself. Not saying that to brag or anything, just pointing it out like, hey, there's nothing I'm going to ask you to do that I either haven't already done a million times myself or wouldn't do in an instant. Okay. Because I don't believe in that. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to anyone, myself included. So, anyway, we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about client onboarding processes, um, because we've got some people that are pulling in some clients. And specifically for the December Dash, we've got Art now is Art now has 5 clients. Yes, I do have you loaded with the points, Art, just so you're aware. I gave you the extra 50 points for hitting the got there first for the 5 clients, the got there first award for 5 clients. So you're set on that. Um, and your revenue's in it listed at 1,500. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of those things, but that's where you're at. So far, we're 5 days in. By the start of next week, we're going to be 7 days in. So basically, a quarter of the month is gone if you count holidays as non-call days. Uh, it's a quarter of the way gone, pretty much. Um, Not to put any pressure or stress on you, I just want you to be aware of the clock that's ticking. Like, here we are. That was our first week, and um, I know there was more than just one person positioned to do very well this week. Uh, Art obviously was the one, but there were many others that were positioned well that I'm not sure what happened to, and that's okay because at the end of the day, it's your business. If you need to take a step back, if you need to reevaluate, if you need to whatever the hell it is you need to do, get it done so that next week, like today, next week doesn't happen next week. I don't know if you folks realize that or not. We'll talk about onboarding here in a minute, but the idea is next week doesn't happen next week. It happens today, Saturday, Sunday. Not that you have to prepare the entire weekend, but this is the time that you gear up and make sure everything that you have that you need and is ready for next week, right? Make sure everything is functional so that when you start to do your prospecting next week, you don't have hiccups, you don't have problems, right? That's what being prepared is, right? By definition, you will be prepared for next week. And when next week happens, you'll pull in the client. So if you're not there yet, you've got a couple days, and then Monday afternoon, you should be on the phone. Not Monday morning, really. Monday morning's bad. Monday afternoon, though, you should be on the phone, right? All right. Let's see. We got some chat here. I'll try to be more mindful, especially after yesterday. We had a crazy character that came in and trolled everybody, especially me. Man, he really loved trolling me, didn't he? Anyway, Art is saying my new work schedule is 9 p.m. to 10 a.m. Philippines time. Got to do what needs to be done to grow this. Anyone can do this if you want. Um, Good. Just got off the phone and closed up client number 6 before the call. The CMO with 7 locations. Okay, that's cool. Um, that's actually good. that's something else we can talk about a little bit later, Art, as well, is how regional and national deals come to be. A lot of people think that, well, what if I just go after a regional national deal directly or to start with? And I always advise against that, especially for someone who doesn't know the pay per call business or has never run an agency before. It's a lot more challenging. And I also know that the natural progression as you continue your prospecting is to run into these clients. You're targeting local clients, you're going to run into regional deals. You're going to run into national deals. And the idea is you run into them when they've identified, and I know it's hard to understand this, but now all of a sudden, Art, you've got 5 clients in for December Dash, but now you're up to total of 7, right? So you're at a 7 client mark, and you're not. I wouldn't say you're at a point where, not quite yet, where you need to start hiring and scaling, but you definitely need to have some systems and processes being built out this weekend to in preparation for that. Because if next week is like this week that you just had, then you're definitely going to be in that range of making your first hire, right, and training them up. And that's cool because you can handle a regional client with 7 locations. You can do that. Um, Now, the reason why I tell you folks not to go directly after regional and national to start with is because you need to cut your teeth. You need to understand the industry more, learn it better. Usually, most of you don't do good enough market research initially. Um, and that can lead to a lot of problems. But after you've got half a dozen to a dozen clients, you're going to start to learn and you're actually speaking to those clients and able to deliver to them and take care of them. And you've got all those things figured out. Then, yeah, the doors open up for deals like this, and they smell it, they feel it. It's not coincidence that that deal came to you, Art. Um, it's not luck. It's you were in the right place at the right time and you had the right shit going on in your business, man. So that's kudos to you for that. You finally, in my book and in yours as well, you should be thinking this. You've leveled up to a point where regional deals are going to take notice at least from here on, pretty much, and that's good. Now you need to reward that by, like I said, systems and processes. Start dialing some shit in, and before long you're going to be in the market for some national deals, and I'll show you how to do that, and some more regional deals. So um, keep keep busting your butt. You're doing great. You're not the only one doing great either, Art. I'm just saying, in terms of where you're at, what you've got going on. Last time you took a run at it, um, you got a few clients in, and shit happens, right? Distractions, um, life on top of that, and here you are right back on it. And this time you're really making a run for it, and I can see that. So kudos to you. Um, Send in the information, all that stuff on client number 6. I'll take a look at it and work with you through that. So onboarding clients and onboarding processes. Now, I don't have a set of onboarding processes or checklists for you because it's actually fairly simple. You can make your own checklist, and I highly encourage you to start getting in the practice of doing that kind of shit anyway, because you're building up. You should be building up your own company training site after you get your first few clients in. You can kind of backtrack on those systems and processes that I just told Art to build, right? It's not like I'm going to tell Art to do something different than everybody else, right? I'm not going to do that to you. But you need to start thinking long term in that way, where you build the systems and processes out for the people that you're going to hire and train. And typically, you start with that first position, move into the sales, because those are the biggest positions that you're working with initially, and that then you can transition over to the campaign manager work, right, and all that. So to start with on client onboarding, though, it's as simple as make sure you schedule a time to speak with your clients once a week. It's not like you got to speak with them for an hour, okay? Um, Usually a 5 to 10 minute conversation is going to be very helpful, and you can list out the things you'd like to cover. Talking points is what I would call them. And these can be as easy as bullets. And you can set it for the week for all of your clients. So, like, for example, Art's got 5 plus 2, so 7 clients active. He could make 7 phone calls next week, do it on do that in a couple of hours max, and uh, be able to take those 5 to 10 minutes over, per client, and there's going to be some downtime in between dialing and waiting and people getting back to you and all that kind of stuff. But the idea is, if you do that, you're going to pull in all kinds of useful information, um, different keywords, different services, what made them the most money, what made your clients the most money last week, what calls they really, really loved, what calls they weren't too excited about, even though they make money. And those are all things that are useful pieces of information to help you not only in your campaigns, but also in building the relationship with the client so that you can provide them more of what they need and what they want, both. Um, and it shows them that you give a damn on top of that. And you can do your market research, continued market research as you go with those conversations if you have talking points, right? If you have talking points. If you don't have talking points every week, you're going to struggle in those conversations, or you're just not going to do them, which is even worse. So definitely highly recommend jumping on the phone with your clients once a week, onboarding them. There's no checklist for that again, because the biggest part of that is going to be the ongoing communication. Um, but the rest would be training them up on how to use the back office, right? That's probably the most important thing initially for onboarding a client. Showing them how they can use the platform to dispute a call, showing them how they can uh, listen in on the recordings, um, letting them hear teaching them how and letting them hear what they sound like on the phone, or their front desk person or people sound like on the phone. Because a lot of times business owners have people on the front desk that they think are doing a great job, and when it comes to setting an appointment or something for somebody that's a layup, right? That, an easy job or whatever. Yeah, but when it comes to no-brainer stuff, you'd be surprised. Most front desk people, even business owners, miss the opportunity of a competition call, right? Or a window shopper, a tire kicker. Most people, as business owners, get turned off by window shoppers. And the fact is, entrepreneurs, we're the minority when it comes to mindset. Entrepreneurs are in the minority. We're 10% at best, I believe, worldwide, by the way, which means 90% of the world thinks like that with the window shopping shit, and the what can you get me and what can I get, and what's the deal, right? So it might be one of the reasons why, when I'm teaching a bunch of entrepreneurs and they got their hand out for something, I'm like, really, guys? Like, I didn't already give you enough to go with on this one, because I don't structure a deal where it shouldn't be already a no-brainer anyway. So if somebody feels like they still need to ask me for something else, I'm like, well, obviously they're not in the right mindset as an entrepreneur yet. So the point is, you can work with your clients, teach them, have teaching points and agendas, not just with your actual client, but whoever it is answering the phone, on the window shopper techniques of closing that business, on the competitor calls and closing that business, if those calls haven't been already booked by the competitor yet, and they're just looking to dial them back, right? That's different. It happens, but it's more rare than you might think, right? There's actually quite a few good competitor calls in a lot of different verticals. That makes sense. But your clients have to be trained and willing to take those phone calls and know how that's going to go. So the back office training, the phone training, think of it as these are ongoing conversations, and you can talk about, again, the converted calls, which ones they liked the most, which ones made them the most money, um, which ones were the easiest as well. Uh, Learn about new types of services. They may even tell you a story about. It may even be story time for them to tell you about when they went to a house last week and dealt with this and that, and you didn't know that yet because maybe the market research hadn't revealed that to you yet, whatever those facts are, and you can use that or not in your marketing or in your client acquisition. So like in the actual campaigns running for your clients, you can use it. Sometimes you can use it for acquiring clients. Sometimes you can use it for both, right? Kind of crazy. Anyway, onboarding clients super important. Don't underestimate that. Start building out your processes for that and stick to it. And there's nothing that says you can't modify and improve as you go and add things as you go. But the idea is you want it systemized so that a 14-year-old could do it. You follow? You create the talking points for week one, week two, week three, week four. I mean, onboarding a client should be the first 30 days, at least starting out with a brand new agency. Uh, wouldn't kill you to onboard a client over 90 days, though. That would be a very, very solid cycle of relationship building. And at some point, you're not going to be in the position of customer onboarding, right? So when you hire and train that person and those people um, in your agency, you're going to want to make sure that you are not um, losing business because of your staff is not willing to do what you've done, which is actually connect with the client. You follow what I'm saying? Like that can happen if you're not on top of it. But again, that's why you don't ask anybody to do anything. You don't hire people to do anything you wouldn't do yourself or haven't already done yourself. That's why you do it yourself first. You don't have to be the master at it, but you build the systems and processes, put that in place, and hire and train the right people for the job, right? Which are going to be more people persons because there's upsells involved in everything. I mean, over 90 days, somebody's going to re-up with you, right? So over 30 days, it's entirely possible for somebody to re-up with you, meaning they're going to put more money into their account. They need to, number one, know how to do that inside of their back office without any support at some point. So they've got to be taught how to do that. They also need phone calls that are making them money, which again comes back to those regular communications from your company, either from you or from your customer onboarding staff position. You get my point. Um, there's a lot to that, right? It's not a here I got a bunch of clients, call them up this week and talk about this, this, and this. Now you're really leaving things to not to chance, but you're really leaving things to um, let's say exposed to potential problems because what if those structured talking points, because they're not consistent, they get mixed up, wires get crossed. If you're talking about another staff member that you've hired and trained to do this, mistakes happen. That's why we do things like checklists. That's why we do things like, hey, here's your talking points for week one people, week two people, and there's a tracking sheet for who's on week one, who's on week 13, right? And then the handoff from a customer onboarding staff member to a customer support team, right? The handoff, right? Makes sense. The relationship is built and then it's handed off. And the reason it's handed off is because you don't want any one person at your company or your agency having all the relationships, right? At doing that's asking for trouble. You don't want to be the one that has all the relationships because there goes all your time. You don't want to be the one that you don't want to have a customer onboarder that has all the relationships and nobody else deals with the customer. You don't want any one person on your customer support team to have all of the relationships developed. You want diversification, and you also want to show your client that multiple positions across your company, including you, there are friendly people willing to help that understand the business and are available, like they can be reached, right? So, um, anyway, that's customer onboarding. I think we've covered that pretty well. Um, in terms of what to expect. Just a friendly reminder on a couple of things here. I'm just looking at my notes. Be sure you're continuing to manage your own expectations. Keep looking at your numbers. If you're not tracking your shit, track your shit. If you're not tracking your shit, track your shit. Say it again. Um, Track everything because if you don't, you're going to have problems. And when you run into problems, how can I help if I don't know what your numbers are? Okay. Don't go into this business with the naive thinking that nothing's going to happen or that you're going to be able to nail everything down. That's not how life goes. Not in something that's well earned in a good business model like this. You're going to have issues with something or multiple things, right? And some days everything. But if you're not tracking everything, there's no way to know what caused the problem, right? Um, Focus needs to be, again, tracking the results in the sales pipeline, following up with all your past potential clients. So the weekend is a good time for follow ups as well. So like if you're set for next week, like you spent that hour or two, prepping for next week, you've got everything in line, you're ready to make some calls again for next week. Now's the time for follow up. Then this afternoon, this evening, you can pull clients. Sunday would be a good time to make sure everything's double checked, triple checked, ready to go for Monday afternoon. And then what I would do is spend some time with the family, spend some time decompressing, doing something else, and come back Monday. And I would make sure everything else in the business is good to go, take a couple hour break, and then afternoon time, at least uh, over here in the stateside, it would be early afternoon time, so like 1 p.m., and go for like 3-4 hours, maybe longer. Depends on how reachable people are, but I would say Monday afternoons are going to be better than Monday morning for sure. And then, of course, managing your expectations and focusing on the process through the sales pipeline and not on the clients, right? A lot of people tend to fixate and focus on the clients, and I'm telling you right now, if you put your focus on the clients initially, you're going to have a lot of problems. You're going to struggle mentally. You're going to beat yourself up, which is silly because most of you, and by most of you, I mean damn near all of you, uh, have what it takes to not only do this business, but do it well, right? Anybody can build the agency. Believe it or not, anybody can build a self sustaining one man band or one woman band agency and not retire, but um, lose the job for sure and pull in six figures. I believe that. There's not a person I've met that couldn't make six figures in this business model. The challenge is, and we all have our own, right? Uh, Helping people to recognize what those challenges are that are keeping them from doing the shit they need to be doing to reach those levels and beyond, right? But I'd say the overwhelming majority of you have the potential to do even bigger and greater than that, um, if you focus on the right things and if you'd have the mindset in the right place. And I'm telling you right now, you may not understand this right now, you may not realize it right now, but your mindset governs everything. It's gonna control what your output is for the day. Not the things that happen to you. Man, I have had days where you would think that um, being sick would stop somebody cold in their tracks. I've had days that have been some of the best days business wise when I was the most sick in my career. That's Think about that for a second. And then I've had days where I was feeling perfectly fine where it was a struggle for me, right? It was because I had to actually gear up, notch up the focus because of the fact that I was sick. Um, that helped with what I needed and the fact that I needed to get stuff done, at least in my mind, right? And I also managed my expectations properly, all that kind of stuff, and I had expected outcomes. So that those all helped, right? And if things don't go my way, I don't cry about it, right? I can get upset for sure, but I usually when that happens, I usually ask myself, stop at a certain point, pretty quickly usually, and say, "Hey, self, what were your expectations unreasonable or what? Because how would this happen otherwise?" And it's nothing to get upset about. Now, I wouldn't necessarily justify it, but I would figure out, okay, here's what happened this time, and it's almost always a combination of events, right? It's never one thing that causes an accident. For example, it's the tires were bald, the other guy wasn't looking, and the third guy was texting. The stop sign was half off the post, so one person didn't see it. You get my point. High traffic area. The It had just rained. All these factors combine to make the wreck. It's never just like one person totally not looking, almost always, right? There's usually a combination of things that cause an accident and an auto accident. And the same goes for in our business when shit happens or when we don't meet our expectations for some reason. Instead of crying about it or feeling bad about it, sure, maybe you need to feel bad about it for a little bit and get it out of your system. But then you've got to evaluate, okay, how did that even happen? And then once you've done that, kind of like what would the equivalent would be like a police report or an investigation, if you will. Then you can say, okay, well, guess we should change those tires. Wait till the rain is, the rain is dried up. Replace that stop sign, right? Uh, Increase the fine for texting while driving for that other guy. All these things, right? Handle your business. Handle your business, so that those things don't happen again or are far less likely to happen again. Um, so anyway, just going to throw that out there. Um, as far as management of expectations, your own expectations, what to do when you don't hit them, and not just evaluating when you don't hit them, but how to work with that. Right? A lot of people view failure as failure, and it's just not the case. Okay. Um, okay. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do attendance because I've seen our attendance has kind of leveled off. Um, and then we're going to jump into a Zoom because we're halfway in, and today may be short. I don't know. All right, so actually, you know what? I'm going to do the Zoom link first, just to save a little time. Let you guys come in, ask your questions as needed, and I'm going to post that link inside of the Facebook group. So I'm going to the Facebook group now. I'm going to paste that in as a comment. And there she is. Okay, so link is in. As you come into the room, please mute yourself so that I can continue on with the attendance. Here's what I want you to do for attendance. I want you to, for today, in the comment section of, keep in mind, the comment section of the Facebook group. Comment section of the Facebook group. We're going to keep this simple today. We're going to do track everything. I want you to write the words track everything. Track everything. I want you to write that in a comment, and I'm going to take a look. We're going to take attendance that way. So track everything. I'm looking for that. There's Scott. All right, cool. Not seeing anybody else yet. There's Jerry. Garrett. Art. Adrian. John Smith. Tim Blank. Robert Cornick. Tim Blank. Where's John Smith? There he is. Gotcha. Steve Taylor. Very good. Christina. There she is. Hello, dear. All right. Anybody else? Track everything. Track everything. Am I missing anybody? Are these questions too hard? I'm just kidding. I like asking that for some reason. My band director used to ask us that. Used to piss me off too because it was, you know, obviously he was being a smartass, but in a nice way. And he was asking questions not just of one person. He would always ask the band, and so there's about 100 of us, and he would ask it kind of like open floor, and then he would always follow it up with, "Are these questions too hard?" Um, as a joke. He would ask rhetorical questions and then ask, "Are these questions too hard?" Like total smartass. Loved it, but also it got old real quick. 4 years of that got old really, really quick. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else. Bob, Jeff Brewer, Bob. Um, uh, who else are we missing for the day? Jeff Brewer, Bob, Lee, John Hackwood, Ken Wilson, Julian Alexander, Mohammed Zakir Hussein. Wait, Karen Novak. Didn't Karen Novak comment? I think she did. Okay. Um, you've got a few minutes. Got to write the words track everything and actually start tracking everything. But for attendance purposes, um, just, be aware at the end of this call, I'm going to do a check again in the comments after the call's over. And if I don't see track everything in there within the time that I check, then it's game over for several of you. Okay. Uh, I mean, one, two, three, four, five, six. That's like six people that would be eliminated. So I'm just throwing that out there. Make sure that you track everything in the comments. Otherwise, in your comment, otherwise you're not going to be counted as present for the Show Up Grow Up Award. Let me mute you for a second, Art. All right. Looking good. Looking good. Let's move the tracking sheet back over so that I can um, see my screen here for Art and jump over to Zoom. Okay, Art, how are you? What's going on?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Sounds like it. You got a
Um,
big smile on your face.
Heck yeah. So I'm just trying to feed my cats at the same time.
Yeah, we're gonna have to either not do that or do that later.
Okay, okay, okay,
Okay,
okay.
that's too loud. Too much rattling going on. So what is it that I can help you with?
Um, so, um, and mainly, I guess I'm trying to think of what my question was now. Um,
Might help if you
yeah, so I
were
just landed.
at the desk, right?
Hmm? Oh, I am at the desk.
And you don't know what your question is? Dang, dude. Is it one of those days?
Um, yeah, it is one of those days. Just due to the time zone, like I don't know.
It's
Right now, I'm
okay.
operating on like 2 hours of sleep.
Well,
Because
then
I was at a fifth
then I
but on
highly
Saturday.
then I highly recommend you get some sleep this weekend. You're gonna need it. Pace
Yeah.
yourself. Pace yourself, brother. Okay. Well, take your time, and I'll field some comments if there is anything. There's Muhammad. I found him. I've got you marked down, sir. I see your comment that says track everything. Gotcha. Uh, not seeing anything else on comments yet. Oh wait, John says thanks, Adrian. I meant the person or people who answer the phone to calls we provide. Okay, I'm not seeing John what your original question was. I might have missed it with the comments and the way the comments are set on a Facebook Live. It's not going to let me see everything. And Restream for some reason the comments just stopped. Not sure what that's about, but that's a first. Normally I get to see all the comments, but um, Art, did you figure out what you were wanting to ask?
Yes. So actually, one of them, and I don't know. I guess I could answer this by logging into the demo account on
It's
the
okay.
back
It's
office.
okay.
But
Ask away.
so when because okay, so I had the client log in, and then he saw like add staff button, and which threw me off a little bit.
You
But
saw what?
the like on the left side where it says add staff, so like
Yeah.
he is able to add staff.
Yeah.
That Okay, but I would assume he wouldn't see the company drop down, like the admin, like me. I would add staff. I could pick company, and then the pages. I would hope can't see all my companies, right?
No. 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 Ad staff for him
Okay.
is for him. Ad staff for you is for you. Your agency, right? It's different for them than it
Okay.
is for you. They need to be able to add staff because maybe they're not the ones answering the phone on the front desk, but they need their staff to be able to log in so that they can mark the calls as good or not good, maybe, right? You're giving them the control that they need to be able to run the business and work well with you, right? Now,
Okay.
on your side, you have the same functionality. Why wouldn't you? You've got
Yeah,
ad
of course.
staff. okay, for all the positions you would hire and train for. So that's the difference. And I understand where the confusion may have come in. A lot of that again is going to come down to actually building out a demo account and using the functions so that um, you understand actually how everything works. That would be very useful. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I mean,
Oh,
how do you,
actually, yeah,
my point is like, how do you learn how to use Facebook?
just by using it,
Just by
breaking it,
using it,
testing it.
breaking it, testing it,
Yeah.
clicking this. What's this? Click, right? Oh, that's not where I want
Yeah.
to go. That's not what I want, but useful for later. Got it. And then you go back to,
Hmm.
I mean, do you, Facebook doesn't field, they field support, but their support and knowledge base is like renowned for just useless help, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Most of it's now in their knowledge base and questions and answers is feature requests. That's most of what you see nowadays. And it's not the newer layout is actually not as intuitive as they think it is. But they shifted over to it, and okay, right? But there's a learning curve that goes with that, just like any software out there. And Facebook, while is a social media site, it's very much laid out with so many different functions. Um, I mean, people teach courses just about the social media site or just running ads on that specific ad platform because it's that diverse and that not complicated, but because everything to do is simple, but there's so much of it, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, ring ads is not quite like that. We've kept it simple. I'll tell you something. As we add shit over time, the learning curve for people initially on creating that test account, that the importance of that becomes even more important to do that. So, um, yeah, it's something you want to do, get on top of, and keep your people trained up on for sure.
Hmm. Actually, with the test account, I was wondering, because you were talking like, I think it was yesterday, you were talking about filling it in with like the call recording, so like running it to like a client or something.
No, not to a
Was it
client. Just load up some call recordings, and by load up, I mean call in from a cell phone or call in from another line to that line, right? So that you can create some example recordings. Hey, just
oh,
wanted you
okay?
to. Hey, I'm just making a quick call to myself on this number, just so that you can see that this is it creates a call recording, blah blah blah, and then hang up, right? That
Oh,
way,
okay, perfect.
when you're on the phone with a client, you're not wasting time with 2 3 minute recordings. You follow?
Hmm.
Okay. Now, if you're someone that out there that has set up a Flyant and has call recordings coming in from the Flyant, the problem with that is those calls aren't edited for sensitive information. So, um, probably not a good idea to turn your Flyant company and campaign and back office into a demo account. But you can, like I said, make a couple quick calls, show some recordings. Like I would do 4 or 5 and make them real quick. Like I said, 20, 30 seconds, maybe make one of them a minute long. And then you've got 5 calls that have been delivered, but maybe you want to mark one as pending and show them how that works, right? In terms of dispute a call, show them the actual process. And every time you do that, obviously it's going to take away the option to dispute a call. So you start with 4 or 5, that'll get you a few clients and showing them that whole process, right? So you may have to load it up with another few test calls to keep that demo account functional. But then there's the wallet, right? Then there's add staff. So you can add example staff. Like you have staff, Art, in your other business. What I would do is grab an email address from one of them and tell them what you're doing and get them a login so that or get another email address or whatever it is you got to do, man, to create an example staff member and show them, okay, here's what that looks like, right? And how many people do you have on the front desk, Mr. Client? Because they're a client, right? You're walking them through the back office. Um, I've got 3. Okay, great. So you can add all 3 right here. Very easy to do. Here's how you do it. Here's what it looks like. Here's what they'll have access to. And at the end of the day, if you want them to review the calls and be the ones, then They can be the ones directly communicating with us. You don't have to worry about a thing. Or you can be the one to oversee it initially and then hand it off, however you want to do it, right? So
Hmm.
makes an impression as well. But you need to know how to do that kind of stuff in order to show it off, right?
Hmm.
Kind of like, hey, I've got a Facebook profile, great, versus I have a Facebook profile, a Facebook page. I go live on Facebook all the time. I have a Facebook group. I have several Facebook groups. I belong to several Facebook groups. I've got people that follow me. All these different things that add up to the collective Facebook experience, if you will. Same thing for Ring Ads. It's no different. It's no different at all. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes, yes, okay.
No, no, no. I heard you. I'm just saying. And where are we at now? Like, what's next?
Oh, um, I guess so. The latest client I landed, he, as I mentioned, he's the CMO of a company that has like 7 branches.
Right.
Like you mentioned in earlier, that he just happened to be on the dialer, and like it's just organic, just like everyone else in the list, and he seemed interested. We started talking. We are going to start with one location.
Yep.
Ultimately, let's see. They, I guess, I don't know. I don't quite have any questions yet, uh,
Okay.
but I guess any advice, or I guess is there anything just to help manage a bigger client like that, or just I don't know. I'm drawing a blank of what I'm trying to ask. So is there any? Could you expand on just regional expectations and or
Yeah,
nothing really?
I can tell you straight out that anytime you're dealing with a regional or national deal, you should use different language. There's a whole couple of sheets that I have for that kind of stuff. Um, I don't know if I've shared that in the mentorship yet or not, and it is something I'm going to share with everyone else as well. But I don't think I've updated that sheet. Um, it's something that I'll just give you the bullet points, and it's not going to be all of them, but it'll be most of them. And it's very simple. If you're in a position of authority, which a CMO would be, um, it's a C level, and it's over marketing and sales specifically. So what driving that guy's driving the business basically in terms of how well the business is going to do or not. Um, the CEO can step in, sure, but the CMO is the one that's going to run a lot of that and have a budget to spend on things like calls or things like ads and marketing. So when this person has 7 locations, they're thinking, I want to do a test with you, and 1 out of 7 to them is a good test. I mean, that's what is that, 14%, 16%, 14%, right? No, it's yeah, it's like 14 something percent. So 14% of their total inventory, and I'm rounding here. It's not like all locations are going to be created equal, but the point is, a good business owner or a C-level executive that deals with marketing is going to know that a certain percentage needs to be done on what we call testing. And then if it's successful as a test, we roll it out to the other stores or to the other locations. And that's the language that regional and national deals, excuse me, either with the CEO or someone in a C-level position is going to understand, and not only understand, but have already used. Like, think of it as, I use a specific type of pen to do my business with because I'm left-handed and it makes the most sense. So if you knew that about me before we had even kind of done any business whatsoever, you'd know a lot about me, and not just have common ground, but understand what my next move is going to be because it's going to be to buy this kind of pen, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Um, Knowing that about your not just your industry, but your regional and national deals, those levels, they want to test something at a smaller rate than if somebody's got 100 locations, for example, they don't want to roll it out to 100 right away. right? They want to run a test of 3 to 5 locations. And then if that works well, maybe a phased rollout. So either a rollout to everyone nationwide instantly or a phased rollout. Let's do it regionally, right? Let's do West Coast, let's do East Coast, that whole thing. So knowing that and being able to speak that language and say those words, rollout, test, regional rollout, depending on the clients you have and how many locations they have and what they're talking about, that makes a huge difference. Again, communication wise, when you're speaking with your client, you want to make sure that you are speaking the same language. Period. Um, they're more concerned about the bottom line initially and how it's going to scale. So as the conversation continues, like with this one client or this one location for this client, you're going to want to make sure that those weekly conversations that you have, you're going to want to make sure that you point out um, that you can continue the conversations with him maybe once a month uh, and not take up all of his time. But initially, once a week, it's a good idea for you and I to sit down and have a chat about for 5 to 10 minutes about the progress so that I can show you what's going on and we can expand on and we can expand our focus on what's working well, right? And take it from there on the rest of the locations. So that's more or less the kind of conversation you're going to have, some of the language you're going to use. Um, and stumbling upon those deals organically is much more favorable, like I said, because they reveal themselves when you're in a place of being ready for it in most cases. Very, very rarely has ever somebody been offered a national deal for just starting out. Right? It's always the same exact way. You've got your first regional deal. Guess what comes next? Right? Sometime you're going to get some more clients in, and then sometime down the road here, you're going to get another regional deal, maybe even bigger. But after a few regional deals, then you're going to be in the market for being able to and prepared to also be able to take on a national client. And so again, that's the insight I have for you on that. There's a lot more to that, but that right there will keep you not only in the hunt, but actually land the business and go from test phase to rollout. Okay.
Hmm. So actually, yeah, the when I talked to him, I mean, I did send you the recordings, and which, oh yeah, well, so the recordings I'm sending you, are you going to provide feedback for those, or is it just for verification of the points?
Verification of the clients. If I hear
Okay, so I shouldn't.
if I hear something that needs feedback, then I'll give you feedback. But it's verification of
Okay,
clients. That's the primary goal.
okay, gotcha. Okay. So when I was talking to this guy, yeah, the CMO, I'm trying not to get, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, like still do the best I can, but
Right.
he's telling me that he, yeah, we'll roll it out to the other ones as well. And then he also told me that he's going to be a great referral source. If this really works, which that he thinks it will, because he handles marketing, like, if you listen to the recording, he did ask me like, okay, what's my traffic source? He's like, right now we're already running Pinterest, we're doing this, we're doing that. I don't want to duplicate it. I'm not going to steal your method, but I don't want redundancy either. So what's your source? So I briefly explained it, and he's like, okay, yeah, we're not doing that. And what you're telling me the price, okay, I can work with that. So then we moved on. Um, and then he's telling me though that I guess that he's like, oh, okay. And then the if you want to sell to like one of the big national brands in my industry, um, he's like his old part. He used to own a previous company that was bought out. He's like, but if you try to sell to this national brand, you have to go through this business broker, and that's my old partner. So if this really takes off, I'll get you connected with that business broker, and he knows everyone else in the industry. So I'm like, at one point I was as giddy as a schoolgirl, but I'm like, okay, I need to slow down, focus, like don't count my eggs before they hatch, or the
Nope.
hens before they hatch. Or
No. Why would he say that to you? What's his motive for saying that to you? And I'm not questioning his motive more than anything, just trying to reveal it to you. More than likely, I mean, He's a CMO, so does he own the business?
No.
Does he maybe
Uh,
own a piece of the business?
oh, yes. I would imagine your C levels do own a
It's
shareholder.
possible.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed. It's possible. Okay. He might have some shares in
Yeah.
that business. Okay. So we understand that about him. So he does have some
Hmm.
kind of ownership or a sense of ownership in the business. Why would he ask you about different channels and not want redundancy? Why would he ask you that question? Where's his head?
Oh, costs. Like he
Well,
doesn't want to
costs,
duplicate his costs.
costs, but what else?
I guess duplicating any efforts, taking away from current sources that like, why would I pay you when I can already get leads through that way? Like
Right.
maybe
What does that tell you about his mindset? Let
just
me let me let
profitability,
me
bottom line.
okay, let me give you a clue here. Let me give you a hint. Um,
Okay.
what if you had a conflicting source? What if you were doing Pinterest to drive leads? Is he just then going to say no?
Probably not.
I would say probably based on what you just said.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, you're right. He did flat out ask, so yeah, I
Okay.
would have told him.
So
Okay, we're already doing
what does that tell you about his mindset?
that. Could be a potential short-term client if he
Is he open to
sees it's
anything?
working.
Listen, is he open to anything and everything that will drive him business as long as it's ethical and moral?
Oh, yes.
No, he's not. You just
Not
said he
through me,
wasn't.
but he is.
No, you're missing the point.
Okay.
Of course he needs
Okay.
to go through you as a okay, Art. Back up a second.
Okay.
I'm giving you some hypotheticals so that I can show you where his mindset is, right? So I can reveal to you what he's really thinking. And this is important
Okay.
if you want to communicate to him and do so successfully. Otherwise, you're going to get fucking
Hmm.
owned, okay? And
Okay.
it's not going to be fun, all right? If you let's say the business that you were doing was Pinterest and it's obviously in direct
Mhm.
conflict, he said that, where's his mind at? Is he open
Oh,
to business that's good?
oh, no. At that point, conversation's done. He already has that covered.
Is he closed off from business that's good?
He closed off. I would say for me, yes, because he already feels he has a good handle on it.
Okay. What I would say to that
Sorry.
is that's okay. What I would say to that is he's half open, half not, right? What you need to
Okay.
understand is he's made assumptions. He's made decisions that seems like he's at least somewhat firm on as his guiding principles that there's no point in having somebody else doing what I'm already doing or able to do, right? Or have
Mhm.
farmed out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, in reality, though, why would you not? You know, you look at big brands like Coca-Cola, right? Do they have just one
Hmm.
page
No.
on
I mean,
Facebook,
one page on.
for
Oh,
example? Do they just have one page on Facebook? Coca-Cola Company? Coca-Cola Company. Do they just have one page
yes.
on Facebook?
Yes.
No, they do not.
They don't? Okay.
No.
I've never checked. But why would you have multiple brand accounts on the same platform?
Why wouldn't you? Are you fucking kidding me? The people that drink Coca-Cola are not the same people that drink Diet Coke, brother.
Mm,
Oh,
okay.
ah, is it light bulb moment yet?
Yes.
Okay, so CMO, C-level, C-level, right? 7 locations, but C-level. Somebody,
Hmm.
somebody's doing well enough in business to bring in a C-level chief marketing officer, dude. Like, uh, that's not nothing. I want you to understand where his head is at. He's already made assumptions. He's at the point now where, and it doesn't mean it can't be reversed, by the way. But you need to,
Hmm.
in order to do that, you've got to be fully aware that that's what the fuck just happened. Like he just told you straight out, here's all my cards, which is cool because he's being transparent. I'll give him that 100%. He just laid out all his cards to you and said, hey, uh, if it's anything that's going to be in direct conflict with what I'm already doing, I see it as a direct conflict, not as an addition, right? Now, what if he likes what you've done so much that he goes and he hires somebody in house to do what you're doing? How does he now feel about you based on what you know, how he feels about all the other marketing channels, how he handles things?
If he's brought it in house, then I'm no longer needed.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
And what you need to understand is it's going to start from day one with this client, talking to this guy and helping him understand that he should actually be considering embracing the whole multi-channel on the same channel kind of marketing, because it's going to get him more exposure, and the more exposure he has, the more business he has ultimately. And that's what big brands do. Anytime you've got a brand, a company that has a division of the company, they're going to have multiple uh, entities and touch points for um, that brand. Now, he may not have that at a 7 location level, but he does. He is aware of the fact that leads can be generated on a generic level on multiple platforms, and it can be completely redundant. So his question and him asking that would be a red flag to me, and I would definitely start digging in with him to make sure that his expectations are managed properly. That number one, this is not a learn what the fuck I'm doing because you love it so much and then get the fucking get rid of me, right? That's not going to
Yeah, like
happen.
a brain drain.
And if it does, I'll tell you right now, I will dump it all to everybody else. Because so when he says, and by the way, to continue the thought here that this guy was having, now why would he tell you about his buddy who's got ties directly to the national guy? Why would he talk to you about that? Why would he bring that up?
To
To help
seem
you out?
buddy.
To seem buddy buddy?
To maybe, yeah, to maybe make me reveal more down the road, so then he can just push me aside if that's his intention, or
That's part of
no.
it. And I'm not saying he has bad intentions, right? We go into it expecting the best, but we also go into it prepared for the worst, right? Doing so,
Mm-hmm.
not doing so means your ass, right? It's your ass, not his. So here's my point. Why would he bring that up to you? And I'll give you a hint. Okay. What did we just cover?
Ultimately, so okay, so I feel that to, in a way he's preparing to no longer need me, and then he can feel okay by pushing me to someone else to help them grow,
No.
or no.
What's in it for him to do that? What's in it for him? Why would he tell you? Why would he help you? Why would he help you like that? And I'm not saying everybody's thinking what's in it for them, but I'll tell you right now, if you own a small piece in a business and you're C-level, you're definitely concerned
Mhm.
about what's in it for you more than anything else. Most other business owners, they don't think like I do. They don't think like we do, right? We're here to help. More than anything, our business is all about service and helping. Theirs is about service, but also making a profit at the end of the day. We know we're going to make a profit. That's a
Yeah,
fucking given. There's no issue there. So most C-levels don't think that way. Sad, but true. So where's his head at? And think. Just think about it for a second. This is important, super important.
mm,
What's in it for him? Put yourself in his shoes. What's
by
in it?
referring me to the other guy.
Yeah. Is there anything in it for him?
I mean, better. It helps him if I'm able to produce what I can, then it kind of like I guess helps him and his clout, I guess,
Nope.
in networking. No,
Nope. He
okay.
he clouded to you. He told you he's Mr. Connected. What does that
You're right.
how does that benefit you if you're that guy? Why would you do that?
Because you want to seem important.
That might have something to do with it. And to expand on that, can you drill down on that?
Let's see. So
Might want to seem important. Why does he need to seem important to you?
that because this could be a good relationship and a good partnership, that this would could work both ways.
If you see him as more important than he really is, or more valuable than he is, or he's trying to inflate his value to you, what might you do for him versus not having that impression?
Oh, okay. I mean, if he's have, it would make it easier for him to figure out more of the inner workings just as a casual conversation
That's
and
part of
dump
it.
me
That's a
eventually.
very, very small part of it. Very, very small part of it.
Okay.
If he's trying to make a good impression and he's over inflated, right?
Hmm.
What would you be? Listen, it's kind of like, okay, if um if the president of the United States called you up, have you ever had a call from the president?
No.
I haven't either, right? I'm just for the record, never had that happen. Um, hope it never does, actually. But if it ever does, uh, understand that the weight of that kind of a call from that position of power, um, no matter who you are as an American citizen, no matter where you're at in the world, you're going to feel that. Does that kind of make
Hmm.
sense?
Yes.
Okay, now obviously the president didn't have to do anything to inflate that. It's already kind of been done before that, before he took office or whatever. The point is, why is this guy doing it himself intentionally with you? When the president asks you to do something, more times than not, what's your answer going to be?
Sure. Like, of course. You'll bend
Right,
over backwards.
right. Why though?
Oh, to impress him
Not to impress him necessarily, right? But that's
and
part of it. But
disappoint
dig
him.
deeper. Why would you want to impress the president? What purpose does that serve you? How does that help you?
Uh, I don't know that it would.
You don't. But you also know people return favors, and so a favor from the president would be what?
Oh, worth its weight in gold, probably.
Worth its weight in gold. And the promise of that means you're going to do what?
May bend over backwards to deliver for him. Make
There
sure.
you go. Now take that and put it into paper call. Why did he
Okay, so
tell you what he told you?
to make sure that I really impress him and do the best that I can for him and his companies.
Yeah, to go all out, pull out all the stops.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's just
Right.
making
Okay.
sure that you're not holding anything back in terms of delivering, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because
Okay.
he wants the best bang for his buck. That's his motivation, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But at the
True.
same but at the
And he
same
did mention
time,
that.
oh, okay, very good. At the same time, so he's transparent at least on that. That's a good sign. The red flag still being though, what?
The red flag, the redundancy and possible that
And
if
how
he
he
doesn't bring
deals
that
with
need.
it and how he deals with it
Right.
in his marketing. I would
Right.
say that it's possible that again you're going to have to dig on this, but it's possible that that's his motive is to find things that work and replace or bring in house or do himself. Yes, but it's also possible that he just thinks that that's how you have to do business in order to keep things simple or to keep things manageable or to manage the
Okay.
brand. Because, for example, something like Pinterest might require, in his mind anyway, might require someone else to use the same branding or the logos, and they don't want to tarnish the reputation, right? When in fact,
Hmm.
just because somebody else is using Pinterest to drive leads doesn't mean they have to even use your logo. You know what I'm saying? It's not always the
Yeah.
case. In fact, in a lot of cases, it's not the case. So for him to think that he's either not in the know, which as a C level is more difficult for me to believe, right?
Hmm.
It's possible, but it's more difficult for me to believe that. Or he's outright got a very clear line drawn in the sand where you may no longer be useful to this guy down the road. And he may do things like string you along with his all important connections. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying these are things to look out for and don't just take everybody at face value.
Right.
Evaluate what they're
Okay.
saying to you and use that um, to build your own, right? because at some point,
Okay.
if he starts dancing with you on the subject of like, I'll give you an example. The moment that he says, "Hey, let's roll this out to all seven," you say,
Hmm.
"Great, um, let's do that." And what's the time frame? And he's going to say, I don't know, 30 days, 2 weeks, whatever. And then you say something like, "Oof, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll normally it would take me this long to do, but since you want it in 2 weeks, it would take me 30 days normally. But since you want it in 2 weeks, I can do that. Here's what I need in return." You're you got to come straight out of the gate with it, which is, and I say out of the gate, you got to come straight to the point,
Right.
like your expectations. Because if you don't, then he doesn't feel obligated, and he's actually not obligated because you didn't bring it up. You're expecting him to be a good Samaritan and be nice. And I'll tell you right now, everybody at a C level, listen to me very closely, brother. At the end of the day,
Hmm.
their family comes first, not yours.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that that's every C level person. It's a rule, not the exception. This guy might be the exception. He could be an absolute total sweetheart and a smart businessman in my book by not acting that way. But I'm telling you right now, there's a reason why C level executives uh, closely resemble sociopaths.
Okay.
You laugh, but
I would.
I'm telling you the truth. Like, go look it up. It's not a joke. Um, I'm not saying that all C levels are sociopaths. I'm just saying
Right.
you put them in a corner, they're gonna fuck you up. So don't put them in a corner. Make it very clear and communicate very clearly what it is you're looking for, what you need out of that deal as it unfolds, not after the fact. Because after the fact, they're like, well, why the fuck didn't he ask for it, 5 months ago or 2 months ago? And then he thinks he can string you along as well. And you're also going to know
Hmm.
out of the gate, within a reasonable time out of the gate, in this relationship, if you expect him to deliver or not on this big brag that he made.
Hmm.
Because to me, a savvy businessman at any level would not reveal something like that unless he felt he had something to gain from it. I'd wait to see how you perform first before I say anything about it. Doesn't that make more sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, so then there's got to be motivations behind it. There's reasons behind it. Maybe he just wants the best bang for his buck, but most likely it's a combination of that. And I'm trying to get this guy impressed so that I can string him along, and we'll see how savvy he is. So he's measuring you, he's testing you, and it's an ongoing thing. But again, that's why, hey man, I'm actually really impressed with this and that on the first location. Let's roll it out to the other seven. And then you say, what's the time frame? He tells you what he's expecting or what he'd like to see, and then you say, oof, right? It's going to take this.
Hmm.
I can get it done in that, but here's what I need from you. It's very simple, and you're not an asshole about it.
Okay.
You're nice about it, but at the same time,
Right.
he's going to see that and instantly go, "Oh, he's going to do one or two things depending on which way he comes down on it." If he was full of shit, he's going to stall, stall, stall. You set up the seven locations, and you cut loose of that expectation of ever meeting his former partner and all that bullshit, right? You just cut loose of it.
Hmm.
If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Don't ever fucking ask about it again because it's not part of the deal. Cool. However,
Right.
you roll out to the seven, and he makes the commitment to introduce you, then you get a time frame on that.
Okay.
It's the same as you would as if you set a fucking appointment. He wants a time frame. He wants you to roll out to all seven locations. You need to set the time frame for that, and then you want something from him, and you'd like to set a time frame for that as well, just like everybody else does. This is what they're used to, by the way. Okay, and he's going to look at you and go, "Man, he got me on that one. He knows his shit. He called my not my bluff, but he called it out and got what he needed out of the deal for sure." And
Right.
if he is truly concerned about his business and his growth, then he's happy with your delivery up to that point. He's not going to care because he's got all seven locations, and that's what he wanted ultimately. If he was a smart businessman, right? Um, it's not always the case. But again, there was a red flag. It's something to pay attention to. It's also something to be mindful of to not be taken advantage of by just taking everything at face value from a C level, um, especially one that speaks too soon about things like that. That's not something you tell That's not something you tell a girl on the first date. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Not if you intend on marrying her. You get where I'm going with that?
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
not the kind of conversation you have on a first date, brother. So be aware of that dynamic, and when the time comes, make sure that you're covered just as much as they are. It's important because that's how they're approaching it. Um,
Okay.
also dig and see about that red flag. I mean, it could just be a mindset. It could just be something he learned in fucking college. Who knows? Maybe he's under the misconception that Pinterest has to be branded, and it doesn't. Maybe he's under that. Maybe he's operating off of some serious misinformation. Same thing with Facebook. You can drive leads from Facebook without using his brand.
Hmm.
So get clear with him on that and understand more about why he's saying that. Maybe not today. Drive a few phone calls first, and as the conversations with this guy continues, right? That's when those things come up. Don't continue to talk to
Okay.
him. Don't continue to talk to him about the other guy and his former partner and this and that. And if he keeps bringing it up, something's up,
Right. Okay.
and you're gonna need to force his hand at the end, which is fine because he's either he one of two things. If you don't do it, he's thinking, "I got this guy. What a gullible son of a bitch," right? And if you bring it up, he's like, "Man, he called me on it. Savvy businessman, sees right through all the bullshit I'm slinging. Got it." And he's gonna act accordingly.
Hmm.
And that's all you're looking for. That way, it helps you manage that expectation of, oh, I, you're not sitting there holding the bag going, man, I delivered for this guy. He's got 7 stores or 7 locations running. They're all profitable. And he said he was going to do that. He said he was going to do that for me. He said he was going to do that for me. Man, there's nothing that saps your motivation than the potential of a deal like that when all your focus could have been on tripling what this client as a regional level at the regional level that you're doing for business wise on your own. So
Hmm.
don't get bogged down on stuff like that. I'm not saying that it won't happen. I'm just saying be aware. There's real room for you to get navigated right the hell out of that deal, right? And to
Yeah.
be aware of where those points are and how to manage those expectations of the client. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the difference between a regional and national deal. The mindset of who you're dealing with, who you're communicating with, versus how we do business. It's not a bad thing. Keep in mind, and most C levels do mean well for their business, but your interests have to be aligned. Your interests have to be aligned with them. And the second that they're not, you're getting run the fuck over if they're bigger than you. That's just how it goes. And that is business. That is capitalism, right? Um, so you can't really complain about it. What you have to do is not hedge your bets, but be smart and be able to move out of the way when interests are misaligned, right? The second that they're misaligned. So, make sense?
It does make sense. And now
Good.
I'm like, I did send you the recordings. And I'm just replaying it in my head as well. Maybe now I'm beginning to think there might have been a few other red flags that,
Well, make
yeah, I don't know. It'll
notes,
be interesting. Yeah.
and like I said, deliver for the guy because that's the deal you made. Talk rollout, but as you talk rollout, it's time for him to deliver on some of that shit because you've delivered, right? If he feels
Yeah.
good enough about your call, but you don't mention anything about that until he's ready to roll. And he, at that point, he has to show all of his cards, his actual cards, and say, this is some good shit. And it wouldn't be, if it wasn't, he wouldn't roll it out to all 7 locations. There's just no way.
Hmm.
So you got him, but you only got him for a limited window, and it's right then and there because
Right.
next week he's not going to fucking come around to that, right?
Hmm.
He's going to play the whole, well, I'm just going to we're just going to stop service then, or I'll just find somebody else, right? Because if you're out there, then there must be somebody else out there that can do it as well, right?
Mhm.
So
That's true.
right then and there on the rollout, that's when you've got them. That's when you need to lay out your expectations. And he knows that, and he's going to have to either commit or drop it,
Hmm.
and that'll tell you where he's at and how to manage what happens from there. Again, most people,
Okay.
I'm not saying he doesn't have that connection. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm not saying he's got bad intentions or anything. I'm saying it's possible, and possibility in the business world is enough. It's enough. What if it's okay? What if it's not this guy? Great. What about the next guy that does that?
Right.
Right? And take that from somebody who has been burned severely by actual partners, not even other businesses. Other businesses, yes, but more so by partnerships. Um, the last partnership that I had, I was able to split from very well and had the upper hand actually more than the other guy realized. And it's one thing to think that you have everything, assets, that you own this person, that you're going to be able to continue and they're not, and for them to turn around and do the complete opposite of what you thought, right, was only because I was prepared for it from day one, I might add, right? There's a reason why when I do a recording like this, for example, on live streams, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but the idea is to protect yourself. Um, I do live streams, right? So it's on Facebook, but now I'm restreaming. I'm also in a lot of time, not always, but in a lot of cases, I'm restreaming. So it's also in several other places, all of which are assets I don't own, right? All of which are real estate, digital real estate that I don't own. So they could go down at any time for any reason. I understand that, but I am diversified at least in my risk. It's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook in a few places, it's on LinkedIn, uh, and soon to be Instagram, right? Like, so it's several different platforms. On top of which, I have a recording that I back up in my Google Drive, right? And then I take that and I also put it into Vimeo. So I'm maxed out on like backups, and a lot of that's automated now, thank goodness. So I do that. Again, not bragging. I'm just trying to explain to you. I do that because, and I did that from day one, with that last partnership I had, because I knew the possibility for this guy to fuck with me was greater if I wasn't prepared for it. And I'll be damned if it didn't happen, right? And guess who was prepared, right? And not just with backups of training and call recordings and shit like that, but like I said, assets, the knowledge of being the one who put together basically everything in that entire program. um, I was able to pick up and move shop, right? And it wasn't as easy as I would have liked it to have been, um, because there were some things that I had to do afterward to set up and prepare. But for the most part, because I had preserved all of that, I was golden, right? And totally unexpected from the other person, from the other party. And that's one of the many reasons why I don't recommend partnerships. But for businesses and doing and having clients, I'll tell you, the one thing I didn't secure that I didn't think I would have to. We all make mistakes, right? The one thing I didn't secure that I thought I didn't have to was some of the people, and not staff, mind you, but some of the students. And one of my students ended up becoming the guy over there, and that's cool, except for what he's been teaching lately. It's completely counterculture and not smart. But that's my opinion, and it's based off of fact, at least. Um, More times than not, I'm dead ringer on that. I'm dead money on that. Um, we'll see how that plays out. But at the same time, none of my concern. right? He made his choices. Uh, there might not have been anything I could have done to influence that decision, even though he learned basically everything from me. Um, in fact, he's been quoted in an interview as recent as a couple weeks ago of saying that that he learned from other people. Like my name was nowhere to be mentioned, which is kind of funny. Because somebody asked him, "Hey, how did you get your start in pay per call?" And this guy's been in my house. You know what I'm saying? Um, on top of all the training. So yeah, it's you're always going to get caught off guard with something. You're always going to carry a wound. You're never going to be 100%, especially if you're trusting and you believe in the good in other people. You will get wounded, but not fatally. You won't. Your wounds will not be fatal, right? You will heal from them as well and be bigger and better and stronger than you were from prior to that deal. But not if you aren't prepared day one. So I want you to go back through that conversation yourself. Make your notes on what were the flags. Um, Address them without addressing them as you go throughout the relationship and deliver the calls. That's the most important thing to get started first. And then when he reaches the point of roll out to all locations, that's when you hit him up on what you need, what you expect, because that's how he's thinking. That's what he's expecting, and it's kind of like now's the time. That would be the time. That would be the appropriate time for you to say something about it, um, and hash out the expectations. And if he stalls you on that, then ask him point blank. Is that something that we're just not going to do? I'm okay with that. Just in other words, you talked yourself into a corner now because I have expectations. Are you going to meet them, or should I've given you an easy out. Are you going to take the easy out, or are you going to keep lying? Right? Like without saying it like that, that's you're giving him a pass. That way
Right.
your feelings don't get crushed when he doesn't deliver all of a sudden, right? And he's either going to sidestep it like that or and say, "Yeah, I'm just gonna expand on the 7 locations." I actually don't know if he's still in the business or this and that. He's going to tell you where he's really at with that guy, or what his intentions are. Coded though, not like straight out. So be aware of that. Um, Again, I'm not coming from a place of. I, it's hard for me to convey this sometimes. I'm not coming from a bitter place. These kinds of experiences, even learned the hard way, will improve your life for sure if you use them and leverage them for that purpose. But at the same time, there's no point in you not being fully prepared from day one. There's no excuse for it anyway. And if I can save you from learning even half of that lesson, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe you get burned, but you don't get like completely lit on fire. You know what I mean? Like burnt to a crisp. Then you're way ahead of the curve, and that's what I'm here for. So um, again, it's not something that I'm like. It's not like I suspect everybody or anything like that. Or uh, to me, you're still innocent till proven guilty. Okay, very much so. Um, However, when red flags pop up, I do my due diligence. I chase them down, right, and make sure that everything's good to go. And I may do it on an ongoing basis, but I do that, and highly recommend you do the same. Um, Reagan as president, had a saying that he used to say all the time, and it was trust but verify. You ever heard that?
Oh yes, I didn't know it was Reagan, but yeah,
It's
I've said
Reagan.
that. I've repeated that quote myself many
Yeah,
times.
it's Reagan. Trust but verify. So yeah, I trust you. I'm going to verify it though, because what kind of a business owner would I be if I didn't verify? What kind of, in other
Hmm.
words, for him, what kind of leader of the free world would he be if he hadn't verified stuff? So yeah, just go forth with that mindset. You said you've already said it a bunch of times, so you definitely got it. Just make sure you're applying it to the client relationships you have. Make sure nobody's in there trying to puff you up, um, and it can be so easily done and in so many ways, you know. Like I
Mhm.
said, that former student of mine that did that interview straight lied to everybody uh, in that interview, not citing where he actually learned paper call from. You know, and I don't
Yeah.
expect like a huge fucking pat on the back or something like that, but at the same time, you just lied.
Shout out.
No, no, no. Fuck that. I don't care if he did. I love me or hate me, dude. I don't care about that. What I care about is he's misleading people. And so if he can do it on that, he's going to do it on everything else too. Bet your ass. And so that's my point. Those are flags that you got to look for and go, "Oh, I see where his head's at. Got it." Right? He's not even he's not even of the mind to be humble enough to give credit to someone he doesn't like, right?
Hmm.
That's interesting. That should tell you a lot about when the chips are down, where he's going to come out, what end he's going to come out on, and it ain't going to be for you. So when you see that for example, in an interview, um, it's a red flag, yes, and you're looking for more. And you said red flags, so that tells me that this guy's going to be good to drive phone calls for. Maybe not much more than that, but pursue it. Lay out your expectations. Bird dog the red flags. Trust but verify. Everybody's innocent till proven guilty. Everybody's good till they're proven bad. All right. Um, and take it from there, right? But just be aware
Yeah.
that you're doing it to protect the business. Remember what I said about business baby the other day? Same concept.
Hmm.
Same concept. Like you wouldn't just leave your baby with anybody. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Would you?
That's true. No.
Okay. Think of it like that. And then you get real protective of who you leave your baby with, right? Or who you let see your baby even, right?
Hmm.
So now if you're thinking in those terms, now how do you feel about this guy? And I'm asking rhetorically. I'm just saying go and do your thinking on this,
Yeah.
okay? Um, but that should give you some perspective on the level of communication for regional national deals, also where their heads at, their motivations, some of the stuff that they'll pull, positive and negative. Um, I will say this: more times than not, when someone toots their horn like that, and it's not you haven't delivered any calls yet, it's more of a positioning piece. It very well could
Yeah.
be that he's not bluffing though. Um, it's a small world, and on top of that, people, smart businessmen, again, smart ones, savvy ones, use pieces like that for leverage, but it's actual leverage. Like they're not bluffing in a lot of cases, but in some cases they are, and you just need to figure out if Mr. Seven Locations is the real deal or not, and if he is, without digging into his friend or finding out more information about that, find out about the other stuff. Find out if he's really got the
Hmm.
chops or what it takes to understand simple concepts like you don't have to have marketing on multiple channels be considered redundant because
Yeah.
every piece of real estate, digital real estate you have out there is going to be pulling in money for you. It also doesn't have to be branded, right, with your name in order to do that. And see where he comes out on that, and that's going to tell you a lot. I think that's going to tell you a lot about not just where his head's at in growing the business that he's in, but also how he's going to treat you at the end of the day, what his plans are for you at the end of the day. Okay. And uh, that could be anything from totally phasing you out, replacing you, um, like my former partner tried to do, right? Um, with one of my own students. That shit happens, right? That shit happens. At the same time, though, I mean, I think it should be very clear at this point for those that know what I'm talking about. Uh, they can see the difference and say, "Oh, wow, all the all the all the stuff's over here. Got it. Okay." Um, but end of the day, protect yourself. Don't get defensive, but just make sure things are in place. Kind of like end of the world. Think of it as like prepping, like end of the world stuff. It's not end of the world, but in terms of the relationship, everything's geared at least to where maybe it's not in your favor, but you're not going to die from it. That's why another reason why I say regional and national deals to start with, unless you diversify immediately, are not a good idea to start with. Because usually, think about this for a second. What if you started out and you had a national client, you're talking seven figures, right? And that's great, but now you spent all of your time setting up all these campaigns for that one client. And yeah, it's diversified on the location, sure, and the results are coming in and everything, but everything ultimately comes down to that one client that you have in that relationship, that you have, that one relationship that you have that runs everything. That's where you're at with
Right.
that person, right? Or with that company. What does that do for you? Can they leverage you? Can they strong arm you?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because you're not them, right? And I
Yeah.
say, can they strong arm you? If you're better prepared and you've diversified, it's much harder for them to strong arm you. They may test you, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes they just make moves because it's what they need, right? They have to do it this way because it's what they have to do, right? So, um, I know it sounds complicated. It's really not. But it's also why I say all that time and effort and energy invested into one client like that out of the gate and not having any diversification. Um, And I'll tell you something, I've never met someone who's gotten a big client, even a regional client, that had a lot of motivation to continue with getting individual clients. It's almost kind of like once you've had a taste for regional, once you've had that champagne, you really don't want beer anymore. And so you forget that beer gets you drunk just like champagne does, um,
Well,
just
I'm gonna keep
differently.
going. I'm
I
getting more
know, I
clients.
know. I'm just saying, keep in mind, like
But yeah.
I'm not talking direct to you. I'm talking about everybody here. So, um,
Sure.
it's one of the reasons why I talk about, because now you've got a healthy appreciation for your local clients, and you're starting to dive into the waters of the regional and national, right? And see the differences. You're probably gonna hindsight. You're gonna look back and laugh at how different they operate the business. There's a lot of even on seven locations. There's going to be a lot of things that efficiency wise could be a hell of a lot better than they are, and
Hmm.
you're not going to really have any control over that. You can have conversations ongoing with your client um, at an executive level, at a C level, and the changes can trickle down from that. But at the end of the day, it's not your business, and you can only advise what you can advise, and you're now in the same boat that I'm in with all you folks, right? So good luck with that, because sometimes I can't even get folks to um, type shit into a comment. You know what I'm saying? Other times I can, and sometimes I can't. Um, I don't know what that's about, but again, things things that make you go and things that you have to deal with as a business owner. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, regional national deals, worth it, yes, just not out of the gate, and also be aware it's totally different conversations. You're still delivering the same stuff. A smaller deal to them, by the way, is usually like a seven location deal is probably just just small enough to where one location still makes sense as a test and then doing a rollout. Whereas
Hmm.
another regional deal might have 30 locations. That small deal, that start small is going to be start with three or four locations, right?
Hmm.
Which means three or four times the deposit. So yeah, that start small is actually not small if you think about it. Um,
Right.
and it does make the regional deals look more attractive. And it's like, oh, I deliver for this client, then I'll get 30 locations. And what you should do is understand that it's not always going to work out that way, and you keep going. You don't rest on your ass on that 30 location client or that 100 location client. You keep digging. You keep digging.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there was a more now that I'm listening, like you've explained all this, and so there's another thing that I initially thought was a red flag, but now I'm looking at it again, and with what you said, I'm thinking it's not the because it came up. The other thing was he expected an agreement, and I'm like, oh, well, like I said, we don't do contracts. He's like, yeah, but you still there's no agreement of like just the what's going to happen, the leads or whatever, and just what we've talked about, nothing in writing. And he was fine with that. He's like, okay, but you really need to do that. And then he's like, I know a guy be like, oh, like 1,000, 2,000, you can get a good contract or just a good agreement. He's like, you're going to need that down the road to protect your butt. But, and I'm thinking, first I was like, that might be a red flag, but now I'm thinking it could just be at his level. That's what you would expect at like
Correct.
when the seven branches or the C level, like, yeah, of course there's going to be a service level agreement. It's not a contract, but this is what you do. This is what I do. So I'm thinking maybe that's not necessarily a red flag. It's just more like, yeah, I probably should do that if I'm going to continue with regional. What do you think?
Well, first off, I disagree with his viewpoint. And secondly,
Okay.
I would say 100% that's exactly the right mindset. That's what they do with each other, because the service level agreement uh, basically states uh, responsibilities of each party. That's exactly right. And in this case, you're buying a pack of gum. You're buying a phone call. It's not. You need to explain this to him. It's very transactional, and uh, everything's covered in your terms of service. If they have any questions, of course, feel free to ask away. I'm here all day, 7 days a week, or whatever the fuck your hours are, and explain to him it's transactional and there's a reason why you keep a credit balance inside of the account. Show him the back office, and then say when a call comes in, it's subtracted. If it needs to be, if it's disputed and needs to be credited back, it's credited back. It's done on a per call basis, right? Now you want to up the volume. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to deliver good calls to you that are highly qualified. You make money from them. You in turn want to up the volume, and so you increase your credit balance, and we increase the flow of calls coming in. Um, that's the business model. It's not something that's going to require an annual payment. There's no fees.
Mm-hmm.
There's no percentages. There's no none of that shit is needed. So contract, no, not needed. Now, he is correct that down the road it will be helpful to have that, because on national deals, having something like that in place beforehand, before you sit down at the table, does make sense. But only for national deals, and I swear to you, on everything, it's pretty much just posturing. It's to have a piece of paper that says what you've already agreed to. And I'll tell you something, the piece of paper it's written on is only as good as the two men's word, okay? Which
Right.
is why we keep things transactional from the beginning, right? And we start them on with that habit, and that it really makes a difference, especially the agreements that you're going to sign on a national level are going to be uh, more times than not, the national company is going to try to get you to sign their shit. So, like I said, it's good to have something for them to sign in return. But again, keep in mind that's just one more hoop for you to jump through, even though it's your paperwork and it's for them to sign. It's one more hoop for you to jump through to get the business, and they may not appreciate it, right? They may not appreciate it, especially if it's favorable to you, or even half and half. They may not like that. Um, I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. I've seen stuff like that happen before, where deals have fallen through because of that very reason. Um, Also, they still have to do a test and then consider a rollout or a regional rollout for a national company. So something like that, yeah, it's definitely, a seven-figure deal. That's going to make sense to have that on paper. A six-figure deal can still be very much transactional because it's spread out over the year. Anything less than that, same goes for. There's no need for paperwork, right? I don't like contracts. I'm not saying I don't use contracts. I do, but I don't use them for buying a pack of gum, bro. I use them for shit like buying a house, buying a car, right? That's when I use paperwork for big purchases. And $30 a call, and it may add up, sure, but $30 a call is not something I'm going to do fucking paperwork on, right? Even on an ongoing basis, I'm not going to do it because it's not needed. What is their paperwork wise? And this is the question that you would have to ask, and you have to ask nicely. You have to tread nicely, but it's helping them understand it's very transactional. It's very much pack of gum, right? And uh, then you need to say, okay, what is it on paper that you need to see that we don't already have going right now? right? What is it on paper that you need to see? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Your needs are already being met. You don't really have any needs beyond the transactions that are taking place and the process of which calls are dealt with. That's it. So ultimately, the paperwork that he's referring to is going to cover his needs. I'm not saying it's only going to cover his needs. I'm saying if he's that concerned about paperwork, it's because he's doing that already, right? He's at a corporate level where, again, corporations, man, the reason corporations suck so bad in a lot of cases is because of all that red tape. My God, you got to have like the accounting department has to approve the funding for you to wipe your own ass. But before that happens, you have to have memos and meetings, approvals and sign offs from department heads, all the way from the top levels all the way down until it reaches somebody that actually finally does the fucking job, and it's reached how many different sets of hands before then. I'm not saying that's always the case. I'm just saying corporations eventually become that in terms of management. And there is a different way of doing it, but that's most corporations. So, and if they're growing, then that's how they're growing. That's the company that they're growing to be, where they're going to have challenges with uh, that paperwork that they're asking for. They're going to have challenges getting that approved, and they're going to make a big deal out of it when there's no big fucking deal, right? Which is why you start out of the gate with them as you're not telling them they're not important, but you are implying that what they're asking for is completely unnecessary and silly, even at their level. And that makes them feel a little bit less important. But that's why the ongoing communication and high quality of phone calls makes them feel important, makes up for that, um, and keeps them with their expectations managed in the right way. Just because that's how they do business on a daily doesn't mean you have to do business that way on a daily. And I don't recommend it. Not until you're talking seven-figure deal. And at that point, yeah, you're going to have the funds to go and hire a lawyer to draft up your own agreement and make sure everything's on the up and up. But at the end of the day, it's posturing because it's very transactional, this business. They pay for the calls, you deliver the calls. There's a dispute process in between, staff is added. There's not much else to it. There's nothing else actually to it than the management of what I just described and the agreed upon price per call. Now, if they need to have you sign a contract on that you won't change that price or whatever, or that they won't change that price, sure. But again, at the end of the day, it's all posturing because the second they say, well, I know we said we signed this agreement and we said we were going to pay X dollars per call, but we're actually only going to pay this much per call from now on. They're kind of testing you and say, well, let's see if they're going to, number one, stick with us as a client, or are they going to just take it? Are they going to fight us in court because we signed an agreement? Do they even have the money to fight us in court? Do they even think it's worth their time? All those things, right? And those things happen. They do, by the way. Not often, but again, things to be aware of, things to look out for, and to protect yourself. But you don't, as far as this being a red flag from the guy, no, it's not a red flag necessarily by itself. Combined with other things, it could be considered one because day to day he's looking for stuff in writing. But again, at the end of the day, in our business and what we do, after you've explained to him about the transactional nature of the business, he should already understand that. But after you remind him of that, he should have a totally different outlook. And if he doesn't and he maintains that, then that should be something that tells you something, right? About where he's at, combined with everything else that you learn. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Anything else?
Yeah, last thing. So when the rollout does come, I would imagine I would still start like create the new campaigns, the new areas, obviously. But then I would probably start again at the low bid bump and repeat the whole process.
That's
Because
correct.
it's going to be a different area. Okay,
That's
good.
correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure not just copy everything. Okay.
Yeah, and at a certain point, keep in mind your pricing, your what you're paying always starts at a low point anyway. But there are some
Hmm.
verticals where, I'll give you an example, something like water damage, or a vertical like real estate, where even through Facebook ads, where when you're driving phone calls, you start low, yes, but then you'll notice after client number five, number six, or seven, that yeah, you started at $3, but the real traffic you open the floodgates at $1.12 in the bidding process, if that makes sense, right?
Hmm.
So like, okay, $1.12, that's where the floodgates opened. But keep in mind, after five, six, seven clients, are your campaigns optimized?
Hmm.
Are they? I'm asking.
Oh, they should. Yeah, they would be.
They would be,
You
but are
tell
they
me.
but are they fully optimized?
Oh no.
No. But are they good enough maybe to start at $10 instead of 3?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, they are. Then that means that you're going to have that gap closed a lot faster and produce results almost instantly out of the gate. Now, for you in a higher call volume, lower cost per call, you're not going to have to worry about shit like that because it's already at the low point. I mean, you're pulling in calls at the low point already, and you're using that optimized campaign as you go. So you're not going to have that pop up in this vertical, but other verticals for other people listening in right now, that would definitely happen, and can happen to where you could shave several days off of your bid bumping after several clients have come in, and you see that that is very clearly, $12 is the mark. You don't set it to 12, you set it to something like 10, and then you bump into it, but you're still bumping into it. You're just saving yourself from $3, for example, to 10, which is $7 worth. That's seven, well, 4 to 7 bumps that you would have to do over 1 to 2 days. I mean, that's a couple weeks you just saved yourself basically, um, for every client then on, and it helps for sure. So, but again, it's vertical specific, and in your vertical, very low cost, so not going to be an issue.
Okay. Perfect. That was my last question.
Cool, cool. All right, I'm gonna answer some comments, and then we're gonna bounce out of here. It's been almost 2 hours again, so let's get to work. Um, what do we got here? Oh, oh, there's Bob Lee. Bob, I didn't see your comment in there though. I need to be able to mark you for the attendance. Very good. Okay. Now, comments. Christina had to go. No worries. Jelani is asking, what do you think about selling calls that have been warmed up by like a virtual assistant? That's a good question. I would say that's not a bad plan. It's not something I would start with. Um, some verticals are going to need that no matter what, though, and this is beyond call ads, but and home services and emergency services. But if you were running Facebook ads, for example, to drive phone calls to real estate, warmed up, primed up by someone who is going to be an information taker, right? Um, an information miner, right? That's going to be very helpful, no doubt. But a virtual assistant, uh, I I know what you mean when you say that, but I wouldn't actually hire a virtual assistant to do that job. I would hire somebody and train somebody to be on the phone. So I would hire a phone person, someone who's used to being on the phone, maybe even as customer service, because that's pretty close to a customer service position is actually very close to what's needed for information gathering, information mining on those kinds of calls initially. But again, it's not every vertical, and it's usually for not always, but usually for white collar verticals. Uh, there are some blue collar verticals that do well with that. For example, auto body does well with that. That's very blue collar. At the same time, uh, you need to know the make of the car, the year, uh, where the damage is. Can you send me some pictures? Who's your insurance carrier? all that kind of shit, right? Where's the car at? Are you having it towed here? All that kind of stuff. What's your phone number, contact info? That's all information gathering, right? Information mining. And that's a blue collar position. So there are examples in verticals that are blue collar where that does make sense, information gathering wise. And then there are verticals in white collar where it makes a ton of sense, like more white collar verticals than anything, like case information for lawyers is a really good one. Usually uh, they have the legal assistants take care of that, right? They get paid a fraction of what an attorney does, but they do a lot of the heavy lifting, including information mining like that. At the same time, though, if you had someone on the front desk that could do that, uh, and then pass that off to the paralegal, then that would be pretty good, right? Pretty efficient for a lawyer's office. Um, so yeah, I would say to answer that question, it's it's um, it's good to have in some verticals and some it's not, but it's not something I would start with. It's not something I would start with, especially if you're bootstrapping, right? It's not something I'd start with, especially if you're bootstrapping. That's where I'll leave that. Um, John's asking the question earlier, William, if it was required, would you offer client call handling at a fee or just part of the service? If it was required, why would it be required? Would you offer client call handling at a fee or just part of the service? If it was required, would you offer client call handling at a fee or just part of the service? Um, if it was required, I don't understand why that would be required. I mean, that's up to you. You're the business owner. You're the one that gets to make that decision based on the kind of client that you want. Or do you want clients that don't have their own front office? Are you able to handle clients that don't have their front office? Sometimes the call volume is so great that even if they have a front office, they still need help. And are you able to service that right with an outside party? It's not something I would charge extra for. It would be built into most likely the cost per call. And it's also, keep in mind, a premium part of the premium service that I'm selling. So it's not really something I would charge for. I mean, I guess I could, and I know of other people that charge flat fees and monthly fees for that kind of shit. But I'm not a fee guy. I don't like fees. I don't like contracts if I don't need them. I like to keep things very transactional. Now, national level, sure, right? Call center level, sure. Contract, sure, okay, right? But not on a six-figure or less deal. Something like that doesn't need a fucking contract. Doesn't need a lot of moving parts to make things really, really sing, okay? Even when scaling. Um, so I wouldn't actually take a client initially that doesn't have that in place. But if you had to, because that's what you're asking, if it was required for me to offer client call handling, would I do it as a fee? I would not. I would build it into the calls, and I would have already hired and trained somebody to do that. But again, it's not something I would do out of the gate. But if I had to, as you're asking, you're forcing my hand here, then yeah, I would already have hired and trained somebody to handle the calls and or a third party service, and whatever I'm charged, I would have factored that into the cost per call before I even sold the call. So hopefully that makes sense. Adrian, okay, John, understood. Thank you for clarifying. So what you do is you charge a client for the qualified calls only. Persons who are answering the phone would be on the client's payroll. Persons who are answering the phone. Yeah, Adrian, I think you meant, if they don't have somebody on payroll and we have to handle the calls for them. Like if we have to handle the calls for them, do we charge that as an extra fee or do we provide it to them at no cost? And again, it's built into the cost and you wouldn't charge them a fee, at least in my mind. I guess, and again, you can, I just wouldn't, right? Um, the call tracking is a service provided to the client also at no extra cost. Yeah, that I agree with. So, Adrian, I think maybe John was headed a different direction in terms of what he thinks has to be done and what I would do if I were in that scenario. So just be aware of that. Art's asking, see you tomorrow, Mohammed. Art's asking, I know you mentioned multiple lead brokers for dialing that are good, but I was wondering which one specifically did you use for the mirror list? I really like the response quality, would like to order via them. Well, I have a couple different lead brokers, actually a few that I use. And to make those recommendations, I mean, I would tell you this, I'll give you the recommendations and tell you that you're not going to have to worry about that because everything that's inside of Ring Ads Mirror is updated and will stay updated at least once a year, which means you're not going to have to go and pay for data unless you just have some wild hair up your ass to go spend a bunch of money on some data. That said, the data sources that I pull from and why Ring Ads Mirror is so valuable is because I pull from good sources. And there's a couple sources that I'm testing out right now that I haven't listed, but I'm not going to tell you about because they're not proven yet, but they're looking pretty good. The ones that are good are, let me just double check and get the site right. I know the name, My Leads Broker. I think that's what it is. Not My Leads Broker, it's Leads Broker. What was the name of that site? It's an absolute shitty looking site, but it's really good for broker data. Leads Broker data. It's like My Leads Broker. My Lead Broker? Hold on. Maybe it's My Lead Broker. Of course, if I could spell. My Lead Broker, I believe, is one of them. Yep, myleadbroker.com. That's a good one. There's also telephonelist.biz. That's always a good one. I'm going there right now just to make sure that they haven't changed their name either. My Lead Broker has a different looking site. It's actually been updated, if you can't tell, to a Convertri site. And telephonelist.biz is still the same login there. And again, leads can get pricey. Just be aware of that. Those are two solid ones that I would recommend. But again, if you already have access to Mirror, then you don't have to pay for data. I've already paid for it and will continue to pay for it and update it. So anyway, that said, hopefully that helps you out on the data stuff. Don't think you really need to worry about that. But again, there's the sources. Just so you know, I'm being transparent. Not hiding, holding anything back. I'll tell you anything you want to know, but I also tell you you're crazy if you're trying to buy data somewhere else because I've already bought it and given it to you for free and will continue to do so inside of Ring Ads Mirror, that is. All right, and if you're in the mentorship, obviously you have Ring Ads Mirror. So, all right, I think we're good. Just want to bounce out and keep working hard, like I said. Do what you need to do. Spend the time, work on the business. This will be last call for that attendance on the track anything comment. So make sure that if you are still in the running for Show Up Grow Up Award, that you have listed the attendance or listed the comment there in this stream inside the free Facebook group. It's free to join. By the way, Ring Ads is free to join, as well as software, ringads.com. That's a free call tracking software ready to go for you. All you got to do is register an account. You're golden, right? And get started building your own pay-per-call agency. Okay, enough promos. I'm out. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. All right, bye for now, guys.
Cool. You fall. Back on my shit with a new advantage. I leave it up to you to settle the damage. Diamond, yeah, I know it's foreign to him. I came from the guts of rural Alabama. Steph Curry wrist, watch with the handle. Simple motors, gotta lead by example. Not too many make it out when they doubt. Never been about bailing off of my route. Rain gang, got the city HD. Hate to see my brother die every week. Numb to your vision. My life got me too fucked up. Disrespect to make a nigga go dumb. Pillow talking while you nursing that bitch will turn you to a scrub. I let prices from the plug, Bay Shore, Ocean View, or win Adidas with the boots. Niggas out here slinging arbitrage, so the money really know it's due. Welcome to the realm.